So my art practice takes lots of different forms, but quite a lot of kind of artworks that go into different sorts of public spaces. This project's a life-sized kind of snow globe, and it's got a heritage apple tree inside. It's reinstalled in an orchard, and I was working with fruit grower groups in the United Kingdom and very much thinking about the loss of species diversity. But rather than making a piece that was particularly didactic, it was more about putting something into a place that lots of people went to. This is a publicly open National Trust property, a part of the garden that you don't have to pay to get to, a really popular picnicking area, and so people would discover this piece put back into the orchard, and then there was some associated information that they could read about that if they wanted to get a different understanding of what the work might mean. And then projects like this, where I work in collaboration or in residence rather with a community, a very small community in rural Australia that was in year 9 of a drought. And there were lots of myths and stories in this small town about the fact that there used to be water. This was a town where you couldn't use tap water even to wash your clothes. It was so mineralised. Everybody had fantasies and stories from their great-grandparents about there used to be floods and how high the water used to be, etc. So I did archival research there, as well as talking to lots of local people about their experiences and the stories they'd heard, and remapped the actual flood levels going back 100 years. This is on a floodplain, and it's mapped in light cables, and it was designed because it was a place where people walked their dogs, and people drove. You can see on the far right, this kind of trail is the headlights from a ute, from a pickup truck. So it was a shortcut, and there'd be a cloud of dust as people tore across the old floodplain on a shortcut home. And so people would see this at different scales, which is why it's quite large, and they'd get quite a distinctive picture. You could walk right up to it and think, wow, the water used to be this high. And this is a place that will never flood again because it's been dammed, and that has affected the ecosystem very profoundly in that area. A different kind of approach is to work with scientists and engineers, and for this project I work with a biomimetic engineer, the person that coined the term biomimetics, Julian Vincent, and we worked really developing conversations about his favourite weed, which is just a plant out of place, Queen Anne's lace, and how, this is Julian there, the little picture top right, and how the fact that this plant is scalable is very interesting to people in engineering and architecture. It's a very robust and strong plant. It grows very high, giant hogweed, some of you will be familiar with, but it's very, very lightweight, so it's structurally quite interesting. But designing a piece for a particular community, Birmingham, which is the mini Detroit of the UK. So this very lightweight plant becoming this very heavy kinetic sculpture that opened and closed as passers-by walked past it in the Birmingham city centre area. An area where people were really interested in mechanics and therefore quite open to a conversation about how natural forms might impact engineering. And then the final piece I want to mention is an ongoing project which considers air quality data and how difficult it can be for us to understand that data. And so this project scrapes live data from the internet and uses that live data from air quality stations from different global locations to grow a little bonsai tree on your smartphone, a little augmented reality tree. And the way the tree grows expresses how healthy or sick the air is. And you can mitigate the air quality and the weather with certain interventions. And the reason you can do that is to try and get to a place where people using this playful app might actually understand more about the chemical composition of pollutants, which is pretty difficult to understand by just looking at the data. But of course, one of the things that motivates all the projects is the joy. It's one of my wildflower meadow projects. Thank you.